My name is Lena Caldwell. I'm 28 years old, and tonight was supposed to be the happiest night of my life. The twinkle lights over the backyard, the perfectly arranged white roses, and the sound of laughter were everything I'd dreamed of since I was a little girl. My fiancé, Ethan Hayes, had spent weeks planning this engagement party with me, down to the smallest detail. For a moment, it felt like everything was finally coming together. I had the man of my dreams, a future to look forward to, and maybe, just maybe, my mom would be proud of me for once. But then, I saw him. I froze in the middle of the party, my champagne glass nearly slipping from my hand. Standing next to my mom, smiling awkwardly, was Jake, my ex-boyfriend. My stomach dropped. Jake wasn't just any ex. He was the man who had broken my heart 3 years ago by cheating on me with my best friend. The man I swore I'd never speak to again. And yet, here he was, at my engagement party. My mom waved him over like nothing was wrong. She sat him right next to me at the table, like he was supposed to be part of this celebration. Ethan's face went pale, his jaw tight. I felt the room closing in on me. I couldn't breathe. The people I loved most had just turned my happiest day into a nightmare. And as I sat there, fighting back tears, I realized something. This wasn't just an awkward mistake. This was the moment everything finally broke inside me. I wish I could tell you this was the first time my mom had humiliated me, but it wasn't. Growing up in Boston, I was the quiet kid who colored inside the lines and never caused trouble. My mom, Charlotte Caldwell, was the kind of woman who cared deeply about appearances. Perfect house, perfect daughter, perfect everything. But perfect to her never meant happy for me. When I was 7, I still remember begging to wear my favorite sparkly sneakers to school. She yanked them off my feet and said, "Lena, we don't do cheap and tacky. People will think I can't dress my child. I learned early that my choices weren't really mine. Dad, Mark Caldwell, was always at work, traveling from city to city as a sales executive. He loved me, but he wasn't there to protect me from my mom's constant criticisms. It felt like her word was the law, and I spent my entire childhood trying to win her approval. It never came. If I brought home an A, she asked why it wasn't an A+. If I got picked for the school play, she complained about the costume not being flattering. And when it came to boys, oh, she had opinions. She liked Jake from the very beginning. He was handsome, charming, and came from a wealthy family. To her, he was the picture of what a successful match should look like. Even after Jake betrayed me, Mom said, "People make mistakes, Lena. Don't be so dramatic. You should forgive him before someone else snaps him up." That sentence haunted me for years. I kept thinking if I worked harder, stayed prettier, stayed quieter, maybe one day she'd finally be proud to call me her daughter. But standing there at my engagement party, staring at Jake sitting across from Ethan, I realized she hadn't changed. She was still choosing what she wanted over what I needed. By the time I turned 23, I had built my entire personality around avoiding conflict with my mom. When I met Ethan, everything felt different. He was kind, patient, and genuinely wanted to know me, not just the polished version my mom approved of. For the first time, I felt like I could breathe. He met my mom for the first time at a family dinner. I was nervous, but hopeful. Mom smiled politely through dinner, but as soon as Ethan left, she said, "He's fine, but he's not Jake." That became her favorite line for the next 2 years. No matter how many milestones Ethan and I celebrated, getting promoted, buying our first home together, adopting a rescue dog, Mom always found a way to bring Jake back into the conversation. "Jake just bought a house on the Cape," she'd say. "Jake's mother says he's doing really well with his business. Jake still asks about you, you know?" Each time felt like a small dagger. Ethan would squeeze my hand under the table, pretending it didn't bother him, but I could see it in his eyes. Still, I tried to keep the peace. I'd bake pies for family dinners, plan birthday surprises for Mom, even skip weekends with Ethan's family just so we could spend time with her, hoping she'd see how hard I was trying. But the harder I tried, the more impossible it felt. When Ethan proposed, I called Mom first, excited, shaking. She said, "Congratulations," but it sounded more like a sigh than a celebration. "I just hope you're not rushing this," she said flatly. Jake was always so steady. I brushed it off, telling myself that maybe she'd come around once she saw how happy I was. We sent out invitations, decorated the backyard with fairy lights, ordered Mom's favorite wine. I begged her to just be there for me. She promised she would. But in the back of my mind, I had a gnawing fear, the kind that kept me up at night. The fear that she would find some way to ruin this for me, just like she had ruined every milestone before. And when I saw Jake walk into that party, fear became reality. The room went quiet when Jake sat down. I could feel Ethan stiffen next to me, his hand slipping away from mine under the table. My heart pounded so hard it drowned out the music. Mom acted like nothing was wrong. She leaned across the table and said with a smile, "Doesn't this feel nice? Just like old times?" Old times? I wanted to scream. Old times were when I cried myself to sleep because Jake was out with someone else. Old times were the nights I sat on the bathroom floor, staring at my phone, waiting for a text that never came. Ethan tried to stay calm, but I saw the muscle in his jaw twitch. "Lena," he whispered, "do you want me to say something?" Before I could answer, Mom said it, the sentence that made the entire room spin. "You know, Lena, if you had just forgiven Jake like I told you to, you wouldn't be rushing into this engagement." The words hung in the air like smoke. Guests stared at their plates, avoiding eye contact. I felt hot tears sting my eyes. I stood up so fast my chair scraped across the floor. "You brought my ex, the man who cheated on me, to my engagement party and sat him next to me. Do you have any idea how cruel that is?" Mom's face hardened. "I'm just trying to save you from making a mistake." Something inside me snapped. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just walked out, past the guests, past the string lights, past the music, until I reached the quiet of my car. And then, for the first time in years, I let myself sob. The next morning, I woke up with swollen eyes and a headache that felt like it had cracked my skull open. My phone was buzzing with messages. Ethan, Mom, even Jake. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I sat on my kitchen floor, drinking cold coffee, staring at the ring on my finger. This wasn't about Ethan. He hadn't done anything wrong. This was about me. And the version of me that kept letting my mom run my life. For the first time, I admitted to myself that I couldn't keep living like this. So I did something radical. I called Ethan and asked him to come over. He arrived looking worried, but calm. "I love you," I told him. "But I can't marry you. Not right now. I need to figure out who I am without my mother's voice in my head." He didn't try to change my mind. He just nodded, hugged me, and said, "Then go find yourself. I'll still be cheering for you." Within 2 weeks, I sold half my furniture, packed my car, and left Boston. I moved to Asheville, North Carolina, a small mountain town where no one knew me. I rented a tiny studio apartment with peeling paint and a leaky faucet, but it was mine. I got a job at a cozy bookstore cafe, the kind of place where people linger over poetry books and sip lattes with whipped cream. I started therapy, where I learned to sit with my anger without letting it eat me alive. It wasn't easy. Some nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if I had made a huge mistake. Other nights I felt a strange lightness, like I was finally free. Slowly, I built a life that felt like my own. I joined a hiking group, made 2 new friends who didn't know anything about my past, and even started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. For the first time in years, I could hear my own voice again, and little by little that voice got louder, steadier, braver. For a few months, life was quiet, peaceful even. Then the calls started. First it was Mom, leaving tearful voicemails about how she just wanted to talk. Then my aunt called, saying Mom wasn't eating, wasn't sleeping, that she was worried sick about me. Guilt clawed at my chest, but I didn't go back. When that didn't work, Mom switched tactics. She called to say Dad had been in the hospital. Stress-related issues, she claimed. I panicked, nearly booked a flight, until I called Dad myself and found out it was just a routine checkup. That was when I realized she was still trying to control me, even from hundreds of miles away. Then came the gossip. My cousin sent me screenshots of Facebook posts where relatives whispered that I had abandoned my family, that I had broken my engagement in some dramatic outburst, that I was ungrateful. It hurt, more than I wanted to admit. And just when I thought I was done being surprised, I got a message from Jake. Hey Lena, I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. I still think about us sometimes. Maybe we could talk? I stared at the message for a long time before deleting it. Finally, Ethan sent me a letter. Not a text, not a call. A letter. In it, he told me he missed me, that he hoped I was happy, and that he was proud of me for standing up for myself, even if it meant losing him. I cried when I read that. But this time, I didn't cry because I was broken. I cried because I realized I had become strong enough to choose what was right for me, even when it hurt. I folded the letter and tucked it into my journal as a reminder. I wasn't going back. Not now. Not ever. A year after leaving Boston, I woke up to sunlight streaming through my little apartment window and realized I felt happy. Not the fleeting kind of happy that comes from pleasing someone else, but the quiet, steady kind that comes from finally living your own life. I walked to work at the bookstore cafe, waved to the regulars, and grabbed a latte before opening the doors. It was an ordinary day, and that was what made it extraordinary. I wasn't waiting for my mom's approval anymore. I wasn't living for her voice in my head. I was living for me. When I think about my mom now, I don't feel the same rage I used to. I feel sad, yes, but also free. Because I finally understand something no one ever told me. You can love someone and still walk away from them. I still get calls sometimes, still see cryptic posts from relatives on social media. But I no longer feel the urge to run back, to explain myself, to fix everything. Because I've learned that choosing myself isn't selfish, it's survival. Family, real family, doesn't humiliate you or guilt you into obedience. Family is the people who see you, love you, and respect the choices you make for your own happiness. Some days, I wonder if Mom will ever understand that. But whether she does or not, I'm done sacrificing my peace for her approval. This isn't the life I imagined when I got engaged. But it's better, because it's mine.